Yeah, I did. It's cute though.
Hey, hey, mamas.
Hey.
It's
Hi,
Mama
hi.
Tribe after dark. It's dark out except where Melissa is, I guess.
Doesn't get dark till 10 here. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I would
Sort
do
of after
great there.
dark.
We all go to bed so late. That'd be perfect for us.
You'd probably love it. You'd love it. So, move up here and boom.
Here we go.
And like on your street, we can be like neighbors.
Yeah, as long as we're just a few miles away, I'd be happy.
This is recorded, so we're making this happen. I can just edit it.
I'm setting the intention, and she doesn't know she's in my web right now.
I like it.
All right. Well, we've got OG over there too. OG. Oh,
Hey.
Oh, there you go.
I'm trying to mute the elevator because all of a sudden there's traffic.
She's outside on her
So I'm
stoop.
sitting outside of my door, folks. Sorry. So I might jump on or jump off again. Who knows what's going to happen, but
Yeah. This is
I'm
mom
excited
life.
to be here tonight.
Yay. So welcome, everybody. This is All Things Crunchy. And I'm so excited because we were actually talking about a near to dear subject for me because my son's in love with superheroes and everything in our life right now is superheroes. And I am a superhero throughout the day. I mean, I think I was before, and according to Melissa and Rachel, and I'm sure OG, I mean, yeah, we're superheroes without having to be any specific one.
Oh, yeah.
Legit.
I'm Melissa.
So if you didn't catch our last show, I wanted to just kind of recap a little bit about what we talked about, like really just, you know, the figuring out how to parent through some of the challenges that the love of superheroes bring, but also to embrace the things that we can help our kids through and teach them. And we talked about gender and roles and equality or inequality. So if you didn't check out the first show, then please do, and I'll put the link underneath this show. And this one's going to be fun, huh, ladies?
Yes, definitely. I'm excited
It's
to talk
perfect
costumes.
timing because Comic-Con is next weekend.
I'm so sad. I'm up here right now. I love Comic-Con.
This is the second year that I don't have passes, and I'm like, meh, okay.
I just would take my boys down to the all the things going on around Comic-Con because sometimes Comic-Con's a little overwhelming and highly stimulating, and there are some fantastic costumes, and people are just kind of parading out and about. So down near the area is really fun too. Lot to see.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, they put up some really cool things, and like you said, everyone's dressed up, and the kids just go berserk.
Yeah.
Because
and that's
see.
That's free fun right there, you know. You don't have to go in, although, you know, going in, I've heard it's actually pretty scary, though, sometimes.
It can be. It can be.
Yeah, it can get really crowded, you know, and particularly when you have people dressed up as, 8 foot tall, creatures, then, yeah, the kids can get kind of freaked.
Well, it's fantasy mixed with comics, so there's that whole fantasy element, so lots of dragons and slayers, and I think anytime you're getting into the fantasy world, it's really up to your imagination, and people have all kinds of costumes. Some of the women's costumes are super over-sexualized, all very beautiful and amazing, but yeah, I mean, it's an adult fair, but I think down at the area where everyone's kind of walking around is where I took my boys, and we just focused on the things that they were recognizing. So they were actually looking for Superman and looking for those types of things. So yeah, it's fun. I love it.
Yeah, such
and just
fun.
seeing their faces too when those type of things happen must be like it just makes it worth it.
So, are we going to talk some costumes?
Yes, we are. And I just wanted to say that I don't have my wine or beer or alcoholic beverage, but this stuff is like, I love it to death. So I'll be drinking a little bit of this.
What is that, coconut water?
Yeah, but it's the chocolate flavored one.
Nice. Yeah.
And thank you, Mama Jenna, who brought this to us. when we needed food at a time, and she also brought this with food, and now I love it. So anyway, anybody else got a drink?
No,
Water.
I appreciate it if you'd stop rubbing it in.
Just water.
Okay, so yes, let's get right into this and start talking costumes. I just, let's just go down the line here. Like, what have you made for your boys? Because we all have boys. None of us have girls. So I'm sorry if you have girls out there, but your girls can wear the same things that the boys can, and that's
the
way
rules are the same.
Yep,
Rules are the
exactly.
same. So I really think it's like when we're thinking about it, even though all of us actually have sons, whenever I think about talking about superheroes, I just kind of address the superheroes or let the child lead the way. But I don't have girls, so I don't have the personal experience,
Yeah, totally. But we would totally rock whatever they wanted to wear too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Rachel, you want to start? Like, what are your boys? What do they wear? What did you make for them if you did? Just.
Yeah, we have a really elaborate dress-up wardrobe collection assortment, and it's pretty much all been amassed just from Halloween costumes. Every year they get a Halloween costume, and when Halloween's over, we toss it and dress up. And then the day after Halloween, all of the costumes and accessories and everything are on like super clearance sale. So just between those two things, we have amassed a huge, significant collection.
Yeah, that's like such an awesome tip too. I think we tried to hit that on the last show, but we were just like, we had a lot in the last show, but that tip of after Halloween and getting the costumes on clearance, that's amazing. Great tip. I love it.
That's what we do also. I can't express enough. I think it's usually around 90% off.
Yeah.
So I believe we got like 5 or 6, maybe even more additional costumes last year on like the 3rd day after Halloween. It was like November 3rd or 4th or something. I mean, for like $30, I got like 7 costumes and additional accessories and everything. We just threw it in our cosplay. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. I can't wait. Because last year we were totally not into superheroes, so I'm so thankful for these tips because it's going to help the pocketbook. So cool.
And I just occasionally will pop on and scan things, whether it's Etsy or even Google. Like not that long ago, I just popped onto Google and searched some kind of costume, and all these costumes online at a pretty big retailer who sells costumes throughout the year were like significantly discounted. And I was like, okay, let's get a tiger and a princess and I can't remember. I got a couple things because they were all like $5 or something. So I was like, sweet, just adding to it,
And you don't need like an officially sanctioned and licensed costume either.
Yeah, right.
So we have a big collection, but most of the time, like my kids will watch a show or read a book or write a story or something, and then they'll just dash off to the bedrooms and come back having created some sort of costume. They usually use like their clothes combined with some dress-up accessories combined with art. They always make something. Like MJ, you were showing me the wristbands that you guys made. Like my kids will always have some sort of something with paper, and art. And then they just get to be that character. So you don't even have to so much think of like inside the box, like this is a Superman costume. But just you get to even be more creative than that.
Yeah, totally. And I think that is also fun for them because, they're coming up with it, or sometimes, with my son, we come up with it together sometimes, but it's just like once that ball starts rolling of the imagination of what they could do, it's a really cool thing when that happens. So, but yeah, I was going to show these because one of the things that we're trying to give you out there, the viewers, is some tips on what you can do, to maybe save yourself some money, but also be able to help your kids' love of whatever they're into. But the show Ben 10, my son really loved the watch that Ben 10. So if you know Ben 10, you know the watch. So I was like, let's just make one. So I just made one with, out of construction paper. So saved us a ton of money because it didn't cost us anything.
Yeah, construction paper felt, I actually just, from using the play-at-home mom so much in their younger years with all of the sensory and tactile things that they played with, I just allow it to be accessible and give them endless rolls of blue tape or tape that they can make or things that they can staple so they can kind of make their own. We used to do it in the beginning together, but sometimes they just want to go down there and whip up or create something that they thought about, like Rachel said. And like, I saved this because I thought this was hysterical. This is a Frisbee with duct tape.
Awesome.
And shields. It's awesome.
Yes.
So they just added duct tape to a Frisbee.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because you can get a Frisbee like free at like a fair these days. So
yeah.
I mean, there's your free little shield and
shoot hubcaps, man. There's lots of things you can find.
If you're not particularly crafty or artistic, that's completely not a hindrance because the whole point is for them to take the lead. Like Melissa said, just keep those materials in their environment and then encourage them. And validate them and be excited with them. But I'm not particularly artistic. To say that, like, I don't really enjoy drawing or things like that. But so I have no problem taking the back seat when they want to be artistic and crafty and creative and use their imagination. And they come up with things that are far better than I could ever come up with.
I know, definitely. My son does not. I don't think that I have very artistic genes. I can copy things pretty well, and I can trace pretty well. So he thinks that I.
It's not like me, in that I think we probably both came from a childhood where we were told we had to color inside the lines. So like, in adulthood, I still have a really hard time like accessing any creativity.
That's so funny because my dad didn't allow us to have coloring books, and then if we would like write on paper and mess up, because you know how that is, you're like, I messed up my fill in the blank. He's like, that's the only paper you get, so you better fix it or something. So talk about opposite, But I have a hard time too because I was brought up that way and wasn't allowed to have coloring books or anything with lines, and I'm so paranoid with I know so many people who talk about that color in the lines are afraid to go out of the lines. So I was like the flip side where I wasn't allowing my boys, and like, please, Mama, please, I want a coloring book, please. And I was like, Matt was like, girl, I mean, come on. Like, let him have a coloring book. I'm like, okay. Wow, I didn't realize I was being so. You could go on the other side too. No coloring books.
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm back.
Yes.
Sorry, and as you can see, I'm still in not perfect scenario, but here I am. It's dark.
There you are. You got your earbuds.
MJ, I wanted to share a really quick and easy, fast idea to make capes with. I buy the 4-pack of flour sack hand towels. You can get them for like $4 a pack. They're little simple white towels. Okay. And then my boys and I tie-dye them. You don't have to tie-dye them, for goodness sake. You could get pens that write on fabric, but we tie-dyed ours.
So cool.
And then they literally like tie around the neck. So if you're looking for an alternative to the very DC comic Marvel world that there are, and you prefer to kind of go your own superhero or make something out. I mean, there are so many inexpensive ways to make capes. I mean, for goodness sake, most of us tie like a baby blanket around or something along the lines. Yeah. I found that those are really fun because then my boys get to have the control and like make the cape the way they want. So do you want your cape to be blue or red or pink or purple? And then they do it, and then they feel so empowered when they tie it around their neck. It's kind of exciting.
I want my own.
Made like that for us as gifts, and my boys just treasure them, knowing that their friend like chose that color for them, and that sparkle, and that it's so meaningful to them.
That's actually a really cool idea. Like like you said, if you're on a budget, then you get where do you get those towels from? Like I'm guessing like Target? Or?
Target, $3.99 for a pack of 4.
Yeah.
And you can get like fabric pens online or at like your Michaels or I think or even Target, to be honest with you. And even the tie-dye, you can get your basic tulip tie-dye, I think, at Target now.
I think so too.
And they can design them themselves, and it's really fun. And if you use washable pens, so the Crayola brand, the Target brand, the No Name brand, washable pens, draw your design on the towel, and then it washes out in the first wash. So we had a superhero party for my sweet Joseph, and that was the gifts that we gave everyone that came, and they were like so stoked about it.
Oh.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh! Like I am totally stealing this. This is.
You're not stealing it. Ideas are meant to be shared. They're not owned. You know.
Well,
That's a pretty cool idea.
What a nice gift, though. I love, and just like the way Rachel said, like their boys treasure it, and like the way like it would be a cool craft for you and your little one, and then you give to others. I love it. I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
Yay.
It's fun and easy and inexpensive. I'm all about that.
Yeah, because when we were younger, I think I was sharing with you when we were like prepping for the show that my mom had like scarves, and so we would use that for. I was 13 when my little brother was born, and so I kind of was totally into taking care of him, and so he went through a phase where he needed a cape, and we just makeshifted from my mom's old scarves, and actually my boy found a placemat, a round placemat that we got for our wedding, and that was a shield for a while, except
that's awesome.
It kind of hurt when it hit you. My husband and I were like, okay, so we got to make some rules here. No grazing the skin, like don't hit the face, like those placemats, just go into Target or something, rub it on your arm, it doesn't feel too good. So let's see now, Melissa, you kind of shared a little bit about what your boys are wearing. Anything else besides the tie-dye capes? Like, do they make any masks
or have you guys tried to make those duct tape superhero boots?
No, I've seen those. We're big fans of duct tape. I've had to really let go of my issue with duct tape. Duct tape to me is like you got to have goo gone around, and I just
right.
Duct tape, but they really love it, and it's fantastic. I make sure, like Rachel said, that we have supplies. I'm a big fan of like them using their creativity. So I too go and swoop up. I've learned for the last 2 years to swoop up costumes, a few days after Halloween. But I'm a big advocate of finding things around the house over just buying something. I really want to teach them to use the resources they have. So they actually play more with things that they've made than things that we've bought, unless they're really in a mode where they want to be fill in the blank of DC Comic or Marvel, whoever that guy is or girl is that they're into. And they're often into being the girl, too. It's just harder to duplicate sometimes. Like, they have to, like, for Wonder Woman, I think she wears some kind of cool headpiece, and sometimes we have to put, like, 2 pieces of stuff together and staple it, and it doesn't always stay on the head well. So Mom has to come in sometimes and help adjust, but
technical.
Like what Rachel said, like they're really so in the moment right now still, and so if we talk about a story, they'll like stop and leave and go change, and then want to come back and help act out the story or something. So it's like constant change going on around here. There's no one superhero at all.
Awesome.
Yeah, for us, duct tape is an outside material. So for in the house, we have Scotch tape and masking tape and whatever, all kinds of adhesives, like the putty that you can stick to a wall and put paper on.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. But duct tape is an outside resource in our house for that reason.
It's like a good rule. I haven't gotten there yet. I think I might need to get there.
Yeah.
We have a big set of shelves in the garage that's for all their backyard materials, like sidewalk chalk and duct tape and tools and wood and all kinds of fun stuff.
I need my pen.
Yeah, and for people who live in apartment complexes or things like that where you don't have a big yard and you go to a park a lot, I always say to have a big bin that that where you keep all of your outside materials and just bring it with you to the park and just set them there on the grass and open it, and they can play on the playground, or they could come and play with PVC pipes and duct tape.
Okay, I'm feeling this in my near future, the need for lots of duct tape.
Start with blue masking tape. It's a lot of fun for very little money, trust me.
And there's also frog tape, right? Have you guys tried frog tape?
The painter's tape, Yeah,
painter's tape. I say masking tape. I meant painter's tape.
Okay, we have the blue painter's tape. My girlfriend Jessica, she puts up the artwork with that because it doesn't take all the paint down, and I was like, brilliant. So we got that, but we've been using that a lot. So I have painter's tape. So do you guys have like tons of colors of duct tape, or do you stick to one, or what's going on?
We just use white, and they color on it with their pens.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
But, I mean, duct tape is so fashionable now. I like walked by Home Depot the other day, and I was like, whoa.
Leopard print. For example, they have like I think it was Superman duct tape. But I found like when we did buy that once, or maybe it been bad, I forget. We did buy it once, but then like they would only use it to play that one character. So like when it's so prescribed like that, it really keeps them in a box. And so I try to keep the materials more generic, and then they can customize them for whatever they're doing.
I do also, and that's come out of just a trial and error, because when they first got into superheroes, I was like all about it because my dad was a comic guy, and I really like comics and people who are, I don't know, I just think like comic people are cool. So I was like, oh, awesome. My dude like comic guys, and then I realized that quickly with a 3- and 4-year-old that it changed, and I got super into this one superhero and realized that I was limiting them, and then we had so much more fun allowing them to lead the way with each time something changed or a power changed or a costume changed. They had, if it was neutral, it seemed to have a lot more time that was played with and used versus something like Rachel said where it was like that's just one character or one type of costume. So like gloves right now, those little like $2 gloves you can get at like holiday time that you put in stockings that are like, I don't know, they're probably poly.
Buy a
bunch of colors of those. Those are super fun and inexpensive.
And if you cut the fingertips.
Yes, cut the fingers off.
Say that again?
It's awesome.
You buy like really inexpensive gloves. You can get them like on super clearance, like right after Christmas time. There are always a ton of them, just like thin cotton gloves. And you can they play with those so much, but also they probably half of ours have the fingertips cut off.
Okay.
They think that looks really cool and like.
Oh, it's tough.
Because it does.
Yeah, it does.
Same Madonna 80s.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering too, like, what do you do with gloves that are too big? Is there a trick? Like, I was thinking maybe I could put like tape around them, like the blue painter's tape.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Good.
Because I wonder if I don't know if I want to cut the tips on the gloves that we have for him. He got the Iron Man costume for his birthday recently.
No, we'll do the neutral ones, like they're saying. So leave the Iron Man guy as Iron Man.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And
what I found too? We went to Joann's one time, and I think little girls do like these really fancy pageants, and so they have tons of like fairly inexpensive long satin gloves. Those are really cool too. I'll never forget, like the lady, my two boys were like just gloves, and she's like, for them, and I was like, yes, like giving her like, I don't want any feedback about gender stuff, like the purple gloves, But those are really cool too, and those you can get in smaller sizes. Or if you search for pageant-y type stuff, because those are kind of cool because they're satiny and they seem really superhero-y, and you can get them in any color you want and smaller hands.
They're shiny.
Yeah, they're shiny.
Actually, come to think of it, I think I have some gloves.
There you go.
I'll have to break them out.
Yeah.
And I have really found sizing of costumes like to not be a problem. Like they'll put on, like they'll inherit a costume from like a 13-year-old cousin, and they'll wear it and run around and like rock it. So I think that the sizing of stuff really doesn't it doesn't ever factor in. I mean, they wear my clothes and run around and
Right.
different kinds of superheroes, and the sizing doesn't ever impede them. If it's like so long that they're tripping over it, they just put tennis shoes on, and then they can still run around, and it doesn't get in their way.
We've totally stapled. I'm not kidding. We've totally like lifted and stapled.
Yeah.
You know that like trick when you're cool
Rubber
and you're like,
bands. Yeah, we keep rubber bands like to gather. Like
Nice.
if they're falling off, just grab a bundle and rubber band it and send them on their way.
Yeah, I almost stapled the other night when I was sewing the bottom of the costume because I just knew it was going to be long, and I was like, it's going to be way too long for a long time, so I just wanted to stitch like a few little stitches, but those few little stitches took a little bit of time.
Yeah.
That's okay.
yeah, all that fast. And then they change. They want it out, and they want to do something weird with it. So I just staple it the opposite direction so that the staple faces
Away from
out
them.
versus their leg. But yeah, we've stapled.
There's another tip for you.
Fabric tape.
Fabric tape is actually great. And just half the time I'm like, oh, that would be so cool if we had that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Staple time.
Totally. So before we move on, OG, do you anything that you guys have made in the house like for Catch?
Well, we did make him into a robot from a box.
Cool.
That's pretty much it so far, but he freaking loved it. He loved it, yeah.
And he already has like a few capes and.
Oh, yeah, and he has his costumes left over from Halloween where he was a Roman centurion, so he's got the, the helmet and
That's fun.
the shield, and then we have capes from Comic-Con, and I got that funny hat for the spring treasure hunt, and like then, you just collect stuff that is funny. Ears from last Easter, or the ones from St. Patrick's Day, and you just save all that stuff. Mardi Gras.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, Costco has really inexpensive, high-quality costumes too. Is that where I don't know if that's where you got your costume from, Erin? Your Centauri. They had one that was like that this last year, but they have.
Oh, got it. I actually got it at the 99-cent store, and I saw it.
That's
I saw
awesome.
it in like February, and I'm like, you know what? I do not care. I will
That's awesome.
save this. Yeah, and then I found a T-shirt, a red T-shirt at the thrift store for like 99 cents, and it was perfect because they would wear the red tunic. And so it was too big for him, and it fit as a tunic. So
that's a great idea. I know. I love that in garage sales too. You just, little funky, weird finds that just make. I broke apart, I forget what it's called, but that thing that you put vegetables in to steam, that all the pieces kind of come out and come in. I just broke off all the metal pieces, and we put them as like little parts on their armor.
Yes. Oh, I know what you're talking about. The little like leaf steamer. Yes.
And sewed a couple of them on like these little hat things, so it looked like metal and just looked like armor. It was so cool. I'm like, I don't think I've used this thing in like 10 years. Of course, we're gonna break it,
So we were talking about. I wanted to mention. There was a few things when I messaged you a while back, Melissa, where I was like, okay, I need to look into getting some costumes, and so Costco, Rachel was just mentioning that they have a pretty good selection, like every now and then, I guess, of costumes. I don't have a Costco card, but I have lots of friends that have the Costco card.
Go in September. I don't know. They do them really early, so if you actually want it before Halloween or you want your pick before they go on sale, you got to go early September because people are on it. I'm half the time like, what? Huh? Tomorrow's Halloween? Okay. But that's why something in February. Cool, It's perfect for me because I had it in February and I didn't have to think about it until it's like, oh yeah, wait, tomorrow's Halloween. Let's go get a red shirt. Let's go to the thrift store.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. So and besides that, you turned me on to that Buy Nothing
group.
Is
that the best ever?
Yeah,
I know.
Oh my gosh,
it's the best.
So cool. And I mean, you know, the people that are in your community, because it's all, you know, you cannot be a part of like a ton of them. You can only be a part of the one in your community, but then you get to know your community members, and then, you know, it's like, but you're just going to probably give something away at a garage sale, so why not give it to somebody that, you know, you may make ties with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I know. I love it.
Free cycle?
It's similar to Free Cycle.
Yeah.
Free Cycle is great. You can post Free Cycle, and you know you can look at it like Craigslist. The thing I love about Buy Nothing Group is that it's actually really developing community, and people can post what it is they're looking for. And half the time, people post things. I'm like, do I have that? Do I have that? Like, I want to like help my neighbor. Like, I'm looking for my. We're like right now in Seattle, it's so hot. Everyone's like, things are out of little baby pools and swimsuits and all kinds of things, and if my boys have 2 and we only need 1, I like want to fill the person's need. But you can do that with costumes too, because that's what happens is a lot of moms just put their costumes, or maybe don't have something that they think would be a part of a costume that your kids are like, hey mom, do you have a... No, I don't, but let me post it. Let me post this request on my Buy Nothing group. That's awesome.
I need a sparkle tube top. Anybody?
Hey, you'd be surprised. You might get like 5. You'll get your choice.
Very cool.
So I wrote down a few other of the things too when you were giving me tips. So of course Craigslist would be another one. And we talked about Target and, of course, Costco, and then Amazon, and then H&M. Isn't that the, like, clothing store?
Yes, but I found a lot of costumes through them.
You did?
They must have some deal with, I think, Marvel. I don't think it's DC Comics, but they may have one with DC Comics also. But they offer quite a bit of costumes, so that's who I was referring to. Like a month ago, I got pirate costumes, tiger costumes.
Oh, right.
I think an Captain America, and they were all like $7 or something. Crazy.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just shipped them all. I'm like,
yeah, just so you were just, it was just online.
Yeah, and they have like dragon wings. They have neutral things. So if you're really trying to stay away, because the philosophy of school that we study are really not pro anything media or character driven. They really want children to use their imagination. So I'm kind of trying to lean toward that realm a little bit more. So having something like dragon wings or fairy wings or things that you can make up on your own, I think is a wonderful option, and H&M does have those. Sometimes, you know, around like Halloween or whatever, they're spendy. But if you go in the off season and you just happen to look through their clearance and you'll see something like some random costume, it's great. It's worth it.
Yeah, totally. And you did this online.
Right, I did it online. I don't think they carry stuff that's too off season in their store. But I'm not sure. I'm not a huge shopper that way. I just don't have the time or the patience or 9 hands.
The fortitude, yeah.
I'm not that goddess. I'd like to be again.
It's not very often these days that we go to the stores. I mean, I pretty much do most of my shopping online unless I am getting like kind of a regular item. So.
Yeah. Although I got to say, you guys, took my kids to Old Navy today, and the line was outrageous to just try on clothes. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're not doing this. How about this little corner over here? No one was over like in the clearance section because the whole darn store was like 50% off. So I'm like,
perfect.
We're getting, take off your shorts, your underwear on, you're fine. Short, fit.
Yeah.
Good. Like, there we go. We just avoided like a 25-minute wait for my little boys to stand there and just be absolutely out of their minds to try on like 2 pair of shorts and a tank top. You know, it's like silly.
Smart.
So
Smart.
no, just like, you know, not worth it for us. So.
Yeah.
I'm not a big shopper that way anymore.
Yeah. And our kids, they're just like, you know, it's not a big deal to just, you know, be in your underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or just drop trowel altogether.
It's like nursing in public. I swear to God, no one noticed. No one even came over there. No one even saw us. So it's like, if you don't bring attention to yourself, no one cares.
There you go. So I wanted to move on because we talked about costumes and tips and wanted to get into weapons. If you wouldn't mind, ladies.
Yes.
And I don't know, we haven't really had to deal with it too much because Jay just turned 4. And the only thing I think we've come across is like squirt guns, so the word guns, and like he's learning from some of the kids about making certain things guns. Like we have these things at preschool that you can like little cubes you put together, and so the boys make them into guns and start running around with them. But so what are your boys making as weapons, if they are, or how are you dealing with this? How are you talking to them? Maybe Melissa, if you want to go first.
Well, I'll go first, but I'll say I'm going to leave enough time for Rachel to talk, because I think she really helped me kind of get more comfortable with the whole weapon discussion, and I think it is a real. I think this is like a big. And costumes are fun, but I think this is a bigger issue for most parents, that they find themselves at a crossroads of nothing violent, nothing horrible. I don't even want my child to have a gun. And then next thing you know, whether they're at the park or at school, someone's introduced it, even if you haven't, and it somehow is becoming a big part of their dialogue. And then it's kind of like the sex talk.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't dance around this anymore. So how am I going to face this directly and head on? And how am I going to cope with, we're not going to talk about, and we haven't completely gone into dying and death and what a gun is or does, but I've embraced it, and we're really working on, like we talked in our last, with consent and inviting someone to play. And I have kind of a rule of never pointing it at me, especially if you haven't invited me to play and I'm not interested in being that person. Do not point that at me. And I've explained that it's not just what mommy feels, but a lot of people are really bothered about that because of the consequences of what pointing something that would hurt someone at someone else is. But I'm actually going to pass the torch to Rachel, because she's really handheld me in such a positive way that I'm kind of new at this too.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of it anymore, and I'm not. There's no more we're not talking about that. I've kind of realized that staunch approach. Moms out there who are uncomfortable with guns, invite the talk. Invite the talk.
Well, I have to say too, Rachel, that our inviting the invite to play and the able to decline has really helped. I mean, it just diffused. Yes, thank you very much.
You are so most welcome.
It works in so many ways to help us just stop it if we're not able to play, and then when we are, then he gets it, and we're now kind of moving that over into, okay, now you need to start inviting friends, so that, because the boys they're just fighting with each other, and then one of them will just hit the other one too hard, and it's like, okay, if you invite them and, also just listen to your friends too, is kind of the thing. But thank you, I wanted to say, from the last episode.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm so glad that resonated with you guys.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so weapons. Well, we didn't even call them squirt guns. We call them water squirters.
That's good.
So I even postponed that. When I had my first kid, I was like, there would be no weapons in our house. There will be nothing of the sort. And at parties we would have water squirters, and I wouldn't even call them squirt guns. But like with all things, and like Melissa made that parallel to the sex talk, anything that you try to forbid and overly restrict and pretend doesn't exist, it's never going to work out well. So I just let it be child-led in the sense that I would answer all of the questions that they brought up, and I would guide them in how to play with these things that these concepts that they would bring into the play. I would help to guide them into how to play with them appropriately. It's like cuss words or candy, or I choose what comes into our environment, but then they are free to explore it and experience it, and as long as you give them that autonomy and that respect and that space to do that, then they don't abuse it and they don't obsess over it. And one really key piece with weapons for me, which Melissa alluded to and we talked about last time, is consequences of it. So with any kind of violent play, oftentimes in cartoons or books or in games that you see people playing, one character will hurt another character, and then that's the end and the game resets and you start over. So just be sure that, you know, if somebody hurts you in a game, you encourage them to look at what happens after that. Like, the world just doesn't reset. So if you know, put two sticks together and you're pretending it's a gun and you point it at someone and bang and the person falls down, you know, normally you would just get up and laugh and start over, just to encourage them to walk down that path a little bit further. You know, oh gosh, you know, I'm so-and-so's mommy. I've just found him. He's hurt. You know, just take it like you don't have to be traumatizing about it. You can keep it at the same level that the play is that they're engaging in. Yeah. But just take it a step further than most play that I see happens, and then that teaches them that there is a consequence when you do that. Just like, you know, if you pretend to put someone in jail, you would say, you know, now what? Like we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, is his family going to come visit? How long is he going to be in there? And, you know, just take these things a step further, and you'll really encourage them to think that through and to learn in a more natural way about the consequences of all those things.
Okay, so I love that, and I just wonder, like, with our parenting and with our boys, do your boys, like, if something fatal does happen, like, do they get kind of like emotional about it all, or what's their reaction? Well, it all changed
for us with pirates. So my first was never into violent play. He was more into like fairies and things. And then my second, we was all into trains and all these lovely kind things, you know, innocuous things. And then like pirates, he got like hooked, was obsessed. It was, my whole world was all pirates for like a couple of years. And it was through pirates that foam swords entered our worlds. So we were, I mean, just tripping over foam swords at every turn. And they thought that swords were for chinging, like that was the word that they used for the sound effect. So they didn't know that they actually hurt people at first. So they understood that that was their weapon, and that's how they would like arm themselves and protect themselves and try to defeat somebody. But it was more like a sport than one person hurting another person. Hang on, baby, mommy's talking. Give me just a minute. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Oh, good. No, I love that.
We get to see a little snippet of the littles of the real life.
I love that.
The Google.
Well, we kind of had the same thing. I mean, like Rachel said, and like I said before, I had the same staunch. None of those will be entering, and I think we have pretty much. I mean, every weapon in like my cosplay box for the weapons, because I actually have a weapon box. I mean, that's how much.
We call it the armory.
I should great idea.
Armory.
I don't know that we actually have a name, but you know, I'm just like describing it for you all. But I love that, Rachel. So thank you. Stolen. But like, you know, there's like swords and shields and bow and arrows, and a lot of things are made with sticks and twine and like spray paint. We're really into spray painting things, and so I mean, again, like they will make them. So back to that denying them, I mean, you know, I denied for a little while. That was like my approach, thinking that somehow would work. That's so funny. And then like the sticks would enter, and you name it, it was made from. I mean, I think they made something out of construction paper once, and I finally was like, okay, it's just not working. So yeah, so we play with a lot too, but it's not in the same way.
Foam swords. That was like our gateway drug into the world of weaponry. And it was just like a sport. They didn't realize that you actually hurt people with it. And that for like a good year, that's how it was. Like they thought that the weapons were more used in sport as
fencing.
Right. It was like fencing as opposed to actual, like there was actually something that happened if you got touched with them. So I think there
homicidal
was a
intent.
natural evolution for us where they started to get more and more aware of, like, oh, if this is sharp and it touches you, you know. And then we went to Disneyland, and they each got to pick one souvenir. And the one souvenir my son picked was this, like, pirate. I think we called it, like, a cannon blaster or something at first. Where, like, when you pull the trigger, it made a sound, and it shone like a flashlight with a skull and crossbones. And he, like, slept with that thing. Like, he So from there, our armory just built, and then there were, like, ninjas and, you know, all of the weapons that come along with them. And so I think that weapons can be incorporated into all the play because they're going to make their own things, even if you don't, you know, bring them in yourself. But you have the same principles of respect and empathy and natural consequences and, like, the interpersonal, social, emotional stuff. You encourage that and fold that into all the play, and it ends up happening really naturally and being still respectful and safe and all that, just like they would use their fists. It's sort of the same rules, but the weapons act as an extension of their bodies, really.
And I feel the need to say, because it's something that's close to me and happened to me. My children, and I think children in general, do not see guns and weapons the way we do in our adult world, and they don't know the consequences of shooting a gun at someone. And it's exciting, and it's tempting, and it's going to be something that you're going to need to work with a lot. And so when you see your son or daughter shoot or aim or whatever a weapon at someone, be mindful that they are not, it's not something that you are thinking it is. And so your reaction sometimes can be over the top, and I'll say that mine was, because taking a gun and shooting at me when they were really mad at me was so upsetting to me at first. And then I realized, like, it wasn't the same as what I'm thinking it is. So I just want to put that out there to be mindful, because they don't see it they don't play with guns and understand the real consequences of, like, what a gun has the power to do. It's just exciting and fun, and their friends are doing it, and it's play, and it's, you know, I mean, there's just so much fun with it.
And I want to say, you don't have to teach them that, like, when they first start playing with guns. So they will, you know, you always answer their questions, and you always direct them for how to learn more about things they're interested in. But for guns, because it's such an emotionally charged issue, I find that people either you know, the two extreme ends where they will either, like, pretend like guns don't exist and tell them, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, and get really upset when they do. Or on the opposite end, like, the first time a 3-year-old, like, picks up a stick and pretends it's a sword or something, they want to, like, teach them about gun safety and take them to the range, and, you know, tell them all about school shootings. Like, there's those would be, like, the two extreme ends of that spectrum, and you can really just let them play and let them be, and like Melissa said, know that there's not the same understanding of the real world implications for those things. So you don't have to take it so seriously, because they don't take it so seriously.
I'm laughing over here because Jay's been pretending to be dead in some of our play lately, and so I don't take it seriously, but I, like, pretend like I'm whoever he is. I'm Iron Man's mom. So I come in like, oh no, my baby, and I just start kissing him, and then he's smiling, but I'm like, you're like, don't be over dramatic, and I'm like, is that over dramatic?
No, that's wonderful. That's perfect. That's how kids learn about all this stuff, is from playing. I have this picture that I love that I took on my cell phone just the other day. My 9-year-old absolutely loves Greek mythology, and so he had some conversation or some game with my 3-year-old where he had explained to him that ancient Greeks, when they died, they would put coins over their eyes for the boatman to take them across the river Styx to the underworld. So I have this for like a solid day, all day long. He would say, "I'm dead, Mommy, I need my coins." And so he would make me, like, put the coins over his eyes. So cute. And I would say, oh, I'm gonna miss you. You know, have a good journey across the river. And yeah, so this is like, you know, this is how they work all that stuff out and figure out what they believe, and you know, they play all of these things out.
Yeah, yeah. I was just laughing because I'm like, oh gosh, you know, like I'm probably like scarring him, but he actually starts laughing, you know. So and then I get to kiss him, so then it's a win-win.
I think there's so much we can teach through play, so I've invited much more of it. And even all those that I'm uncomfortable with, I think it's becoming a much better dialogue with us, because eventually they will get bigger. And I know Rachel homeschools, but I'm sure she's interactive with all kinds of other people with different ways of doing things and different language and different boundaries. And so it's like, I remember being really upset at first of the things that Benjamin was learning. So I think for us personally, I was like, he is learning so many violent things at our sweet little Waldorf school. I'm so upset, you know. And then I was like, oh, this is about me. I need to be comfortable with this play. And it's been such a wonderful place because then I get to help kind of like embrace some of where he's at, but also the questions that are coming up, because there are so many. Yeah. And so if he learns about something he doesn't really understand, by doing it through play, we have dialogue. And when there's dialogue, it stays open. The lines are open. And so I'm really enjoying that, even when it's
sometimes in being exposed through play to these other things that are beyond your ideal, that gives you the opportunity to feel out where that is, and for them to learn where that is. So, you know, if they're playing superheroes and, you know, pretend fighting and things, and then another kid joins the play and their pretend fighting is way more aggressive, like they can feel out, oh, that's where that boundary is for me, because that doesn't feel good. So now I know, like, that at that point is where that's not comfortable for me. And so that can be a gift in a sense, that you get to try out all of these different things when you're exposed to different people from different backgrounds with ideas and different styles of play. Every style of play is not going to be right for you, and that's okay. Like, my eldest had a really low tolerance for violent play when he was younger. He wanted none of it, and he didn't like it. But I still felt like it was good. It was still good for him to be around other kids who did like it. I mean, I never forced him to play with kids he didn't want to, but so that, you know, he could feel out, like, oh, that doesn't feel good for me, and we would have conversations about why that didn't feel good for him and what about it didn't feel good for him, and would he think of a way that he could play with this child, you know, in a way that would satisfy the kinds of things he wants to do, while at the same time not crossing any boundaries for him. I mean, if you don't expose your kids to all these different things, there's so many lessons that they won't learn just through that experience. And I also say with the weapons play, one really great angle to teach your kids about weapons is from their practical use. So we have this modern role of weapons, which is very complex and political, and then we have this like survival use of weapons, which for me is my preferred angle of going at this. For example, for our book club this year, with some of our homeschool friends, we read Island of the Blue Dolphins, and in it she has this like moral debate over making the weapons and then over killing living things. At one point she decides she's not going to kill living things anymore, but she still needs them to protect herself. And so when we got together for the book club, my friend had this project where we went around the park and looked for sticks, and she had like sharp rocks, and we had to use like twine to fasten them together. And so there are all kinds of ways that you can incorporate weapons for really like what their base purpose is, you know, aside from all of the very politically charged and confusing and, you know, potentially traumatizing things.
Well,
like, I wouldn't want a gun in my house. Maybe I'm showing my cards too much here. I know that's kind of a political thing to say. But if I was, like, in a jungle, like, I would want a gun, you know. So if we're playing jungle, like, and there's a tiger prowling around, like, that would be practical from my perspective.
Right. Yeah. Well, and just like Melissa said, it's not as bad as we think it is, you know, like we have to, and like just it's learning for our kids, but like we're talking here, it's learning for us too, you know, so I think one of the things that you said, well, there's tons of things that everybody said that was great, but just, you know, it's our comfort zone that we're trying to get out of, and so, you know, we're learning ourselves through making that comfort zone a little, you know, getting out of it, you know, and it's a, I mean, I think just being a parent is such a daily life lesson. There's just so many.
Trust your kids. I think that's one of the big morals is trust your kids. Like if they're grabbing sticks and rocks and fastening things together, trust that that's what they need to do right now, and that's okay. And just find a way to join in their play where they're at. And like I never played with weapons when I was a kid. I don't know. It just wasn't on my radar when I was little. And so it was all new for me, like when my kids started playing with it. But just trust in them, try to have fun, try to learn and grow right alongside them, and I think it ends up being a really good experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, and just for us too, like I love how Melissa said that, you know, we don't do it perfect every time. You know, maybe our reaction wasn't that great, but we're learning from it. You know, and it's that like feeling like, oh crap, like I didn't do that right. You know, like that's actually it. I've learned.
Good thing.
Exactly.
Like I said, if you don't have those experiences, you won't know where your compass should be set. Like you start to veer off this way, and you feel like, oh wait, that doesn't feel so good. Let me tick it back this way a little bit. Yeah. And so if you never have those experiences, you don't know where to set your compass. So I think I have those experiences daily where I'll say things or react to something or, you know, try to make a rule about something, and then we'll wear it for like 10 minutes, and I'll be like, you know, how are you guys feeling about that? I'm not feeling so good about that. Let's reevaluate, you know, and then we'll adjust and change direction.
Yeah.
Such great life lessons. I mean, even for superheroes, think about it, you know. I bet superheroes have to do that too. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's really funny because we were at a little wading pool the other day, and there were quite a few big kids playing with squirt guns. And I really watched them play, and most of it was really fun for them. And then I overheard a couple moms with their sweet wee ones saying how they were never going to allow guns in their house. And I just thought, I found myself so pleased just sitting there kind of taking it all in. Here were some children that were like, I'm going to guess, like 8, 9 years old, maybe a little older. I'm not very good at judging ages. And then here were these moms of like maybe 18-month-olds, and my boys were somewhere in the middle. And I remember being, you know, that mom that said never, never, never. And I remember being overwhelmed by the kids that were like playing with weapons and thinking it was all bad and negative somehow. And I was able to kind of gaze upon these kids having such a great time, and it seemed very like everyone seemed to be on the same page. There didn't seem to be anybody who was really upset that someone was squirting them. It seemed to go back and forth, and then be that mom that also said that that was never going to happen as well. And I found myself so in a great place of empathy on all sides, like for myself because I was that mom, and now I'm looking ahead at my kids getting bigger and inviting one another to play, and I wasn't so upset that there were squirt guns at the park or the pool. So it's a whole new place when you start to kind of invite it in and look at it, because if it's causing this huge reaction, my feeling is like, ooh, I need to visit that.
That's my job, not my kid.
Yeah. And not looking at that change as like oh, I screwed up, you know? I mean, for me, it was so, I have just been such a perfectionist my whole life. I've never really truly realized how much I was one until I started to see those traits in my son, and I'm like, hell no, he is not going to be, you know, me in that sense. I need to really stop. And once I started beating myself up about things, especially in my parenting, it was just like it's so awesome because you're kinder to yourself, and you learn a little bit more when you're kinder to yourself.
Because how you treat yourself is how your child will treat themselves. Like the inner monologue you have when you look in the mirror or when you evaluate your day, even if you don't say it out loud, your child inherits it. So if you look in the mirror at the end of the day and say about yourself, God, I failed today, and look at me. Those are all the same things that your child is going to think at the end of the day when they look in the mirror. Like, so I always keep that in mind when I stumble, or when I'm not having a good day, or when I make a mistake. What would I want my kid to tell themselves in this moment? And that's how I access my compassion for myself and my ability to step forward in a different direction, because I don't have that compassion for myself naturally, but I know I have it for my kids. So
Yes.
That's a great idea. I like that. I'm going to have to try that.
Well, and this is such a plug for stage parenting and homeschooling and unschooling. So even if you choose maybe a more traditional school, I find that somewhere along the way, I'm thinking it had to be like 80s, but when did failure become problematic versus part of the process? So one of the things I'm really trying to reframe in myself, so therefore I'm exuding it to my little dudes, as well as my husband, my partner, is that failure is a part of the process. Like, we get to our answers through tripping, making mistakes, failing miserably, and that not to look at that failure as like, oh man, I really messed up. It should be like, oh man, I messed up, that didn't work, so I'm going to move to another thing. And instead of harping and all that guilt and shame baloney that we play with ourselves, which I don't know, I kind of blame on the schooling system, because somewhere along the line, taking tests and the grading and all that, so silly stuff came to be our self-worth and whether or not we were getting the answer right the first time, and only raising our hand if we had the right answer versus let's work through the process as a team here. I'm really trying to look at failure as a really positive thing. So you're going to fail. I'm going to fail again. I'm going to, it's good. It's a good thing. And I think when we're talking about some of what we're talking about here, dressing up in costumes and maybe violent play and weapons especially, I mean, none of us are law enforcement or military, but I wonder what the discussion would be if one of us were, and what and how that would be different. Or, perhaps somebody who lived in a more violent area. I don't know. But I think that the fact that we're inviting some of these conversations and looking at some of the mistakes that we're making through our process. I love the way Rachel said, let's try that on. I tried that on for 10 minutes, and that didn't feel right. How does that feel for you guys? I love inviting our children to part of that dialogue and that conversation. This isn't feeling right because we're all in this environment together. So that was really helpful, Rachel. Really helpful.
Good.
And too, with that, it's we can change. We grew up in that what I say goes. And we are not, we're not doing that. And so we are giving our children the ability to voice their opinion. And so, and especially when we feel that way too. And I love that too, Rachel. That was awesome, because it's no, things don't have to be I said this.
Yeah.
No,
our life is a collaboration. So that is I think that's one of those foundational things, that our family is a collaboration. So there aren't really top-down consequences for us. I will ask my child who's having a hard time, what can we do to help you to be your best self in this moment? Or what things can we change in our lives right now so that you can access more patience or access more empathy, or whatever it is that they're needing. Sorry, whatever it is that they're needing in that moment, what can we do as a family to help you to be successful in this challenge that you're having right now? And that might look like for my 9-year-old right now, that usually looks like, let's have no sugar for a few days and get that out of the system and see if that helps. But it's always a collaboration. I mean, it really is they come up with the ideas and we try them and we see what works.
Yeah, and it's so awesome when they come up with ideas. They're so cute. I figured it out. How about this? We've been doing what is it? Compromise lately, and it's just so. How about this compromise, Mommy? How about this? I just love it. I just think it's so cute too. So
that, and also having their opinions. I picked up one of the capes tonight that Joseph had tie-dyed. And immediately Benny was like, I don't like that one. And I feel like, you know, in my household, if you don't have something nice to say, you don't say it all. Yeah. And I kind of like paused for a minute, and then Matt just like jumped in with the grace. He's like, Ben, Lytle, art critic. And I was like, rock on, like, that's awesome, you know, like, because I don't want to be like, hush, because, you know, somehow you not liking it is not okay to say or
just
add to
what
as
you
well.
have to say isn't funny doesn't mean that it's wrong or doesn't have value.
Well, but how to bring it into the conversation is really hard if you were brought up with, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all, or maybe you weren't allowed to express an opinion that was somehow negative, at least my household, it was really difficult to do. So I was like, yay, Matt, that was great.
Yeah, because it's like it's not like your other son was hurt by the comment, right? I mean, you immediately like jumped to that, like, you know, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it.
Yes, that.
Yeah, and if he would have, we would have addressed it, but it was just funny. It was really funny. And, you know, little ones, they express it with such oomph sometimes, you know. It's not just that, I don't really like that one, because we kind of learn that socially as we go along. It's like, I really don't like that.
That is the scourge of the earth.
I know.
Totally. Oh my gosh, we've been dealing with that a lot lately, and it's you know, I think we've been doing really well, but Jason is into like saying how disgusting things are, and that's just gross. Like, and it, you know, it's like we're out in public, and you know, you really don't need to express your opinion, but these, you know, this is where in my mind the kids say the darndest things. So.
Isn't it awesome?
It's great.
Yeah.
So I know that we're like, you know, I knew that we were going to go over, but whatever, screw it. If you know, just come back to us or whatever. I know we're moms, and I only usually watch like 15 or 20 minutes of a show besides, you know, being pulled in another direction anyway, but I can always come back to the show that I'm on. So the last thing that we wanted to chat about, that I really wanted to get just some, you know, advice from you ladies, and just, you know, kind of know what you, you know, I really respect your opinions about all these parenting tips, obviously. So, like screen time, you know, what we talked about it a little bit on the last show, especially with you, Rachel, and I loved how, you know, just your whole philosophy with food and with weapons and with, you know, everything. It's just, you know, we present these options. If we don't want these certain options, we don't present them. But if we present them, then you are going to self-regulate over time. That's why I kind of go across the board with food and just, you know, anything that we have for our kids. But yeah, I don't know, just maybe we just, you know, chat about it. I have a few things written down, some questions, but, you know, let's start with you, Rachel.
Okay, yeah, so for our screens, I wrote a post recently about which is sort of how we approach screen time specifically, where I refer to it as soft structure, especially because we homeschool. I think I probably take it more seriously than most people, like how we intentionally allocate our time, and I think that's an expression of our priorities and the kind of person that we'll become. So for us, I have like these little buckets for each kid with clothespins on them, and it says, like, one says educational, one says physical, one says I'm trying to remember. One says chore, like, so they do one chore each day. So there are all these things that I want them to devote energy to. One says their room, so they get to devote some time each day on their space. I just sneeze. Hang on. So whatever that means. Read a book. Read a book is on there. It can be read a chapter for my older kid, whatever it is. So after they put all their clothespins in the bucket throughout the day, then their time is theirs to do with whatever they want. As long as they are respecting themselves, respecting each other, and respecting their environment, their time is their own. So there aren't very many clothespins in there.
Okay, wait a minute. That's freaking awesome. I just want to say.
I know. Is that in your Sage homeschooling book? Is your Sage homeschooling book? Is that little tip?
I don't know, but I think about it.
Like, this is almost like the joy jar.
Yeah.
Like, This is awesome. Okay.
So
Sorry, I had to stop you.
So can you rattle them off again?
You want to know like the things that are on their bucket?
No. What you said. These are the things. If they're not
Respecting yourself, respecting each other, and respecting your environment. Those are the three.
Okay.
The three conditions of their freedom. As long as they are doing those three things, then they can do whatever they want.
Awesome.
And each kid has their own like preference. Like I would probably say my oldest prefers more screen time than my other two. But most of the time, it's really cool stuff. Like he's really into science, and so he likes to watch like a lot of science documentaries and. But once they finish their bucket, I tell them they have carte blanche for brain candy. That's what I call it. So a lot of the screen stuff they do is educational, but some of it's not. Like sometimes I want to just like lay on the couch and like tune out and relax. So I grant them that same space and opportunity as well. And I choose what comes into the environment. So in the sense that I choose like they have a kid Netflix account, you know, so they're not going to be watching like Pulp Fiction, but they have like my two younger ones have kid YouTube. My oldest has the real YouTube because none of the he plays the ukulele, so he spends a lot of time learning songs and things, and none of those videos would come up under there, and a lot of the science stuff doesn't come up.
Well, and you have trust and respect, you know.
Yeah, and our rule with screens is that they're in a communal space if he's on the internet. So if they're using like apps on the iPad, they can be wherever. But the laptop is right on this desk next to my computer, and so if he wants to use like the grown-up-y type stuff, like the regular internet and YouTube, then he just has to do it out here. But because we don't really restrict things from them, they don't like try to see anything, because if they wanted to see something, they could just talk to me about it and we would find it together. Kind of like running with the toddlers, right? Like they're not trying to run away from you, they just want to run, and so you can say, let's run together, and then they'll get to run and you'll get to be together. It's the same thing with even like screens. They don't necessarily want to be sneaky and watch a bunch of crap and see inappropriate things. They want to learn, and relax and have fun and enjoy themselves. And so I think, see, a pool noodle is becoming a weapon behind me. And so I think screens can be a vehicle for that, just like anything else can.
Awesome. I love it. That's another tip, too, your son just gave me. I have a pool noodle in the car. It's a weapon, too.
Pool noodles are like the greatest thing that you can use for all kinds of things. I think it was Rachel or somebody showed us, Rachel, for our trampolines to weave them in and out of the springs. Did you do it?
I was in that thread, but I don't think the suggestion came from me.
Oh, okay. I think maybe we were both tagged. And so I'm thinking about maybe doing that. But I even just saw like using a short piece of a pool noodle to use as like a baby insert in a baby carrier as opposed to a rolled up blanket, because they're nice and stiff, so their like little bottom is up and they can still make that nice M shape. I was like, pool noodles are awesome.
And you can also use them like when you're going out of town, like if you get the big huge thick ones, you can put them under the fitted blanket and like kind of create
a bumper. I call that the bumper.
Nice.
And sidecar sleep arrangement fills in the gap. They have all kinds of uses.
Yes. Oh, we have a bunch of pieces of them with funnels taped in the end.
What happened over there?
Nice.
And Cash will pour water in one end and watch it come down, and we play with that in the tub. He loves that.
That's awesome.
So what do you guys do for screens?
We don't do screens. It's kind of, it's funny that if we do screens, it's very little. Hi, buddy. Sorry, I got little Milo here if you're wondering why I've been rocking all night and not sitting still. We don't really do screens. I've done screens a couple times this year when they're sick and we watch Signing Time, because we have incorporated ASL into our world. The school that we've chosen is really, it's not that they're down on media. So one of the things I tell my moms, if I'm talking to other moms or dueling a mom who's pregnant, and I'm like, I really don't want to watch a lot of TV, but I'm so sick. I really am like, take care of yourself, take care of your kids, do what you need to do. I'm not a big believer that TV is evil. I'm not one of those people. However, we have chosen not to use any screens and or media with our children, at least up to this point. And I think I've used it twice this whole year, and it was signing time, and they were over it by like the hour point, or maybe hour and a half. But for the most part, for us, it was really more or less like encouraging the imagination, because my boys are still really little, and anytime they really see something, they often want to act out the play that they see. So it's just really keeping that purity of fantasy and what is going on in their minds versus something that they see, and they've decided that that's what that is. Yeah. And so I'm just, I'm taking it slow, and like I do anything, I mean, I'm just seeing where I can stay balanced and what works for us and our family.
Yep.
So far for us, it's working. It's harder, I'm not gonna lie. It's harder. There are days that I would really love to just turn on a half an hour or something, or an hour something, and have some downtime, and I have to find other ways to do it. But I can't believe it's been over a year since we've used any screens whatsoever with my boys. So.
Yeah.
But that's our choice.
Are you like encouraging independent play a lot, or the boys are just doing it on their own? Or I mean, I know, because what age are your boys now? Tell me again.
6.5, 5, and 18 months.
Okay.
So self-directed play is really all that we are and do, unless I have like an activity scheduled, and then to some degree it still is anyway. So if we're going to a park or we're going on a nature hike, I mean, they still really lead the way and lead the play. Yeah. So it's not, unless I have like an activity, but even our art projects have kind of really become what they want to do. I mean, I'll often say, hey, do you guys want to tie-dye today? And they'll say, yeah. I'll say, do you want to make things, or you want to make them spirally, or like they kind of lead that too. But I'll like direct some activities, but for the most part, it's self-directed. But my guys are still pretty young. I mean, Benjamin's only going into first grade next year, and Joseph in kindergarten. So at least with the schools that we've chosen, they don't even introduce letters until first grade. So schooling-wise, outside of just kind of keeping it fun and fantasy, has not really been that serious for us.
Yeah.
Except just living life, which I think is school, but
Yeah. Totally.
For us, I think that the screens come from two angles. I think one, my husband and I like to watch TV at night when we go to bed together. It's like this thing that we do, and we like laugh together and like talk about the shows, whatever. It's this thing that we do to unwind together, and so our kids see that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things I tell parents is that you should do the things that help you to relax and be nourished, and then we'll build like a life around that, and we'll find a way to incorporate that. And so that's one of those things that's something that my husband and I really enjoy, and it's really good for us. And so our kids see that. So I think that's where their like desire to be included in that same style comes from. And then the homeschooling piece is a big component for us. So, for example, I think I wrote on Facebook the other day that we were having lunch with my mom at like a burger place.
Oh, right. I remember that post.
Yeah. It just came up naturally in conversation, like all kinds of things, like and the conversation went from like parasitic twins to like organ transplanting to like primate studies, talking about how chimpanzees can be aggressive. That was like the first face transplant, and that got to like Jane Goodall, and then like Coco the gorilla. And so throughout the conversation, like at one point I pulled up like the DNA models of like humans and primates, so they could see like how similar they were. And then we watched like a video of Coco signing like with her trainer. And so there are like a lot of ways, I think, with homeschooling especially, that screens can be advantageous, especially as your kid gets older. So like my 9-year-old, when he asks me questions, we discuss it, but I more direct him to how he can find the answers himself. Yeah. And the internet is a great, it's like you have every library around the world right at your fingertips.
Yeah,
and see, I love that. I love that. That's not the same as plopping your child down in front of mindless television because you need I don't know what you need. So, I mean, I love the way Rachel explains it. She's kind of really helped me understand it better, especially since I'm very interested in the like homeschooling, unschooling piece of things. And let's face it, we use media, we use screens all the time to look up all kinds of things. I mean, most of the time, my husband and I don't know something, we really are looking it up and finding out a whole worthwhile information. I know my sons will do the same. I think just right now in this early childhood development, I'm really liking the peacefulness and the imagination piece.
And it's not easy when they see that. So that I love that. I think that's beautiful. And I think too, my husband's career is on the computer, and he like what he does is like on the computer. So they see also like the fulfillment that brings him, and you know that's his job, and so he works from home sometimes, and they'll watch him like make things beautiful on the computer. And so technology is definitely something that we have woven in, but there is a definite distinction for us between what I call brain candy. You know, it's a sometimes food, like it's a sometimes consumption, like for that kind of screen. So like sometimes we have ice cream, you know, and sometimes we can watch a junky show and just zone out, but it's like candy. It's we frame it as being the same way. Like it's not good for you, you know, but sometimes you get a different type of enjoyment from it, and so it's okay to do sometimes.
And that's really teaching balance, because I am aware, but like by not having something at all. Well, one, media is everywhere around us. It's everywhere. I mean, we can't go to a restaurant where there isn't a screen. It's really hard to do. And then you walk into Costco or you walk into anywhere else. I mean, screens and technology is everywhere. So we have to find a beautiful balance. And we're kind of just going at it at a very much slower pace than maybe other families. But I love that I have Rachel and you know, a few other people that have a really balanced approach to it, because that's eventually going to be how we'll want to incorporate it into our life.
So Melissa, did you guys just stop screens for a certain amount of time recently? Is that because you said you've only been doing it for like a year and a half or something?
Well, I should say no screens. We didn't use it much at all. Like we just never really watched television. It really wasn't like such a huge choice, except that I didn't have a great taste for many of the shows. I didn't like them. I didn't like the dialogue. I didn't like the half-an-hour wrap-up. I thought that the cartoon Thomas was absolutely obnoxious, and so most of the shows I would try things, and I was like, I can't take it. It's just hideous. And the way they speak to each other and the moral codes, I hope you don't mind me saying, were just not for us. I was like, no.
No, so, you know, I love that because, I mean, there may be other people out there that feel like, you know, like that, but just, you know, the mainstream, how can you get away from it? Well, you can, you know, if you have that feeling of like, this is not for me, you know, you don't have to do it. So, and who knows, you know, if you're ever going to feel fully that way if you don't have somebody else that says, yeah, we don't do that, you know. You know, it was hilarious to me thinking back as a new mom, because I thought that actually, because I grew up with TV, like big time, you know. I mean, we were totally plopped, not like plopped in front of the TV, but we loved TV. We watched it a lot, and we were allowed to watch it a lot, you know. So, so I didn't really know what the non-positive attributes of you know, screen time really.
Mr. Rogers told me I was special.
Yeah, I was going to say part of it is that I wasn't brought up on television. I think I was allowed Mr. Rogers and some Sesame Streets, but my dad was adamant about no television too. And I think that's where a lot of mine has come from, is I just didn't have a crazy habit to begin with, so I didn't have a huge draw. Now, like Rachel, my husband and I have some shows that we really like and we take a lot of pleasure in, and we wait when the children go to bed. And that's mostly because the shows that we like are really dark. Breaking Bad and, you know, just a lot of the shows that we get a lot of pleasure from, and I really like diving into dark themes of the psyche and what would you do if things were different. Are really inappropriate for children. So I don't have any shows that I think that we could watch together so they can see us, but I really like that idea because I want them to see that we have downtime and that we take pleasure in this, but we would have to find something that was appropriate for them that we actually could sit down and sit through
Like right now, my kids and I, like as a family, we're really enjoying watching Naked and Afraid, which is like such a
I'm
show
gonna take my Lytle.
But my friend Emily, and I'm totally gonna give her a shout out here. She was like, you know what show is really great for like body image awareness and stuff like that? Because we were having a conversation about that. She said Naked and Afraid, because all these people are like the strongest, fittest, like most fit for survival, and they look nothing like the societal ideal. And you get like their whole body's like going around like being strong and being like healthy, or when they get not healthy, you see them get smaller.
Yeah.
And then it's like cool like nature stuff on that show too, and you see people like come up against their like moral codes and what do they do, and so my kids are having a lot of fun watching that show right now, and my husband and I both
like it.
Watching that very silly show.
Yeah, we love MasterChef, and we every now and then we'll get Jay will you guys, it's your choice. You can watch Chef. And so but it's cool because we like, you know, we're kind of teaching him along the way, and then that show, I swear, is so, it pulls up my heartstrings. Like today my husband just looked at me and he goes, just let it go. Just go ahead and cry. Like I was like welling up. And then it taught because I can't stand it when I hear moms say like, well, I don't want my kid to see me cry. It's like, why?
What?
Like,
God.
I don't get that. Like I mean, I don't even have to look at my son, and he goes, Mommy, you sound like you're gonna cry. You know, so, he knows me very well. But I love that too, where you know, I can say these are actually happy tears. Like this lady's not gonna, she's gonna get to stay on the show, and you know, we're explaining to him, and so it's not that I'm sad, but I'm actually heartwarming, and so.
I like to be sad in front of my boys too, though. I like to be sad. I like to show them the gamut of all the emotions that happen. Because one of the things someone told me, I don't know if it was one of my early therapy of something, I don't know how this got off on this track. It's supposed to be superheroes, but one time my therapist said, you know, one of the biggest challenges for partners or couples is that parents often took their argument into the bedroom, and they didn't. You saw the fight, you saw the argument, but you didn't see the resolution. And that can be really damaging, because sometimes we don't know always how to get that full circle of what happens when we're in, you know, we're in conflict or we're in an argument, of like how to bring it full circle. So one of the things I decided was like, my boys are gonna see it all. They're gonna see it all. They're gonna see it, and I'm sad sometimes, and I'm happy, and I cry both when I'm happy and sad. I'm a crier. And they see Mommy and Daddy get in an argument or have a discussion that maybe isn't necessarily pleasant, but then they also see us work it out and compromise.
That is in the Unpack the Parenting Baggage chapter of the thing. I feel so strongly about that. Sorry.
So do I. They have to see you make amends if you've hurt somebody's feelings. They have to see that their actions and how they behave with somebody else has consequences, you know, and like you said, compromise.
That is so important for superhero play too, because like we talked about, like there are consequences. So if the superhero rolls in and like blows up the building to defeat the bad guy, like what about all those people? And
where are they gonna live now?
There's no time that like you start any of this. Like you start it when it starts, when it presents itself. It doesn't matter, you know, like you said. I mean, when I'm upset, there's no way I'm not going to. I am a crier, just like you, Melissa. So it's just the tears are gonna come. I'm not gonna stop them, and I'm not gonna try and hide myself from my son, because this is a learning experience for him to know, you know.
How exhausting must it be to have to hide yourself?
I call that the mask. The mask. Like I tell parents, like, take off the mask. That is the mask of what we think we should be presenting as ourselves to our kids, as opposed to actually being your authentic self.
Well, and it gives them permission to be authentic.
Yes,
you know, and teach empathy and compassion and understanding, and it's really, really important, especially for the superhero play.
Yes.
Because sometimes your sword is going to hit somebody, or sometimes that whack is going to be a little bit too difficult. And if there's no carrying out those consequences or understanding that you may have hurt your friend or your push was a little bit hard, even though both were consenting to play this hard, you know, it can really help them when they see you work it out.
Yeah.
They just learn through our modeling. So, I mean, I don't even know how to keep that mask on. I'm just not capable. I wear my emotions way too close to the whatever, like, what do you call that?
Like sharing your authentic experience of things, not even in the way where you're specifically guiding the play or laying out mandates for the play, but like I say a lot, like I'm wondering, and that is preceded by me sharing how I feel about something. So I'll say like, oh gosh, I felt really worried when that sword got so close to your friend's head. I'm wondering if he was worried about that too. Why don't you check in with him about it? So like I share my authentic experience because they can see it on my face.
Yeah.
They'll pause. They'll be like, whoa, what just happened? You look worried. And then like I'm wondering is sort of like my invitation, like for them to look at their own experience of it and for them to check in with the people and the world around them about what's happening.
Right.
And it's not shame-based. It's not like upset with or teaching them to immediately go into where they're not being authentic either. By having, I think that I'm wondering is such a beautiful thing to say so that like everybody can still feel safe, even though something may have happened that maybe wasn't working for everyone, or being able to get inside enough to want to go check in with your friend instead of feeling ashamed that mom got mad at me and I'm not even sure why she was mad at me, you know. And I see that happen with the weapons and everything else in terms of like the really violent play, if that's what you're going to call it. I find it's a challenge for parents who have kids who like to play a little rougher.
Right.
You know? So it's good. I like that.
What are your suggestions? Like so let's say, like you said, you're kind of talking about it, something that could have happened. So what if there is an accident and your boy didn't mean to, but he punched his friend in the eye? I'm not naming any names, but it was an accident. You know, as a 4-year-old, he didn't mean to do that. He was fighting, but it hurt his friend. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that that there was no shame going on, that, you know, here's what happened. It was an accident. You didn't mean it. But we do need to make sure your friend is okay. I'm going to go see if he's okay right now and make sure that, you know, he doesn't, maybe he'd want some arnica, you know, like the things that we do when things like this happen to him. So
always focus on the victim first, and I'm wondering what we could do to help him to feel better right now. That's typically my like jumping off point when one kid has you know, unintentionally hurt another child. So that like focuses them, but it also gets them trying to think as opposed to you saying go do this and go do that. It's a way of inviting them to build that empathy highway for themselves so that they can apply it even when you're not standing right there. I'm wondering what we can do to help your friend to feel better right now. And, you know, that can incorporate things like an apology or an ice pack in our house is like a really common, like, nice gesture when somebody gets hurt.
My house, too, yeah. Even Cash is 3.5.
When we're talking about, sorry, my kid's banging chalk.
No, that's okay. I was going to say my computer's about to lose power soon, my dear.
I know.
Before we all go, that in talking about kids being too violent, I want to say that it's okay to not be friends with everybody. Everybody's not going to be a good friend for you, and everybody's not going to help you to be your best self and help you to find your happy. And that's so completely okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a great great way to tie it off right there, because
I know.
Superheroes have to deal with that same quandary.
I'm sure they do.
I know that we can just go on forever.
Part three.
Yeah,
yes.
There we
I
go.
just like hanging with you guys.
Okay, part 3.
Awesome. Well, I guess we'll cut it off here and we'll have a part 3, and we'll schedule that because, yeah, I mean, you know, it's definitely a topic that we could just go on and on about. So
Who sticks to a topic?
yeah, I love your art. It's just like we've just taken this river ride and we've just stopped off on all sorts of places. So, yeah, and one thing actually I wanted to say was that, like with the homeschooling aspect, and I'll be getting in touch with you more and more, Rachel, because I am definitely going to go down that route. I know, I'm so excited because you know what, too? I don't feel like I really, like we were talking about with school, because of being tested and being forced to learn certain things, I didn't actually learn them. So if I'm homeschooling my child, I almost get another chance to learn along with him, you know? So that's
so beautiful.
Yeah, and we, like you said, you know, like we've been saying, the way that we parent our kids, we've been doing this. Like I've been actually, I think he's more my teacher than I'm his teacher, but you know, I've been trying to model and be somewhat of a teacher along the way. So I know that I can do this, but just that aspect, yeah, of just like, you know, being able to, it's exciting because you know, we can go on these journeys and learn these things, and I get to do it too, you know, with him. So.
See, that'll be the next show then. We'll have like a homeschooling show.
Okay, there you go.
That, Rachel, because I think personally, obviously with some recent rulings in California, I think it's a great opportunity to really get sage homeschooling out there, because I don't know that enough people really understand. I've seen a million things on the San Diego boards, and Rachel's not on one of them, so I keep like Rachel Rainbolt Sage Parenting, but I can't tag her because so it's like maybe we could do something along those lines so that some more people can really tap into the resource that you are, because you put a lot into your business and your product, and I think, you know, to be honest with you, like now's the time, especially for a lot of Californians.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, I almost feel at ease because of her other books. I know the way that things have been laid out, that like I'm pretty much going to have a template of like, here's the information. So, you know.
Okay,
thank you, Mama.
I will show you and we'll do a giveaway. We'll give away a Sage homeschooling book.
Woohoo! That's a great idea. Sorry.
Hey, all right,
I'm starving. I need to go. I ran out of water. Months ago.
I actually have to.
You have like.
All right.
This was great, though. This was so awesome.
Look at Melissa. She's got.
I know. Because it's going to go out. My computer's going to go out. It's been warning me for like 10 minutes.
Okay. We'll stop, and then hopefully you'll still be on so we can say goodbye. Okay. All right, Mama. Love you. We'll talk soon.
Bye. You guys. This is so awesome.